The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests of this program and are not necessarily those of station staff, management, or sponsors. WPSL does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WPSL. It's time to Ask a Rabbi. Call in with your questions and comments at 340-1590. And now, here's your host, Rabbi Shafir Lobb.
Hello there, this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb with our shortened Ask a Rabbi. So please give me a call at 772-340-1590, 1590. And this is as good a time as any to say Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach, Chag Chanukah, the festival of Hanukkah. And it starts Sunday night. Sunday night's the first night, and it'll go for 8 nights and 8 days. Joyous time for many. I'm looking forward to latkes, sufganiot, and pastelikas. Lots of different things. So here's a little trivia piece that people might not realize about Hanukkah. The famous potato latkes actually started out as cheese. When they were brought first out of Spain and Italy, they were fried cheese cakes.
That still sounds really good.
It does. And there's some really good recipes for making it.
Mozzarella sticks.
And when it became potatoes when the dish moved into Poland, and people were poorer and couldn't afford cheese. Cheese is a very expensive item, and so it then became potato pancakes.
You use what you have.
You use what you have, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, of course, latkes are anything under the sun. And so you've got broccoli and sweet potato and all, probably cauliflower would be really good.
Haven't had the sweet potato.
Sweet potato ones are really good.
I like sweet potato fries, so they're probably good.
Yeah, they are great. Mm-hmm. They are great. And so there's a wide variety. The essential rule, round and fried in oil.
Okay.
Right. So, there's a parody out there. I actually posted it on my Facebook wall about, you think you can bake a latke and call it a latke? It's fried in oil. It's supposed to be crispy. It's supposed to be really fattening and not good for you. And so traditionally served with sour cream or applesauce, although a lot of Americans now are eating it with ketchup because, of course, it's potatoes. So,
to me, that just makes it hash browns.
Well, there's there's a similarity.
No, what it makes it is makes it Christian.
No, it makes it American. It's what the kids are doing these days. So, it's a matter of what you're used to and how you're raised. Mm-hmm. These are all just reasonably recent family customs. And in Israel, it's jelly donuts, sufganiot. And they're jelly donuts. Again, you can fill them with anything you want. But again, it's round and fried in oil and then, of course, dipped in sugar and all those other wonderful things that are just, low calorie. A heart attack waiting to happen.
Good.
Yes. And the pastelikas come from the Sephardi side.
I don't know what that is.
Those are savory. They can be cheese. They can also be meat. And it's something like a ravioli.
Okay, like a pierogi?
Yeah, and then fried in oil.
Okay.
Always fried in oil.
Although pierogi's not quite round.
Yeah, no, it's
flat on one side.
Right, it's a round version,
Okay.
and it's close to pastellas, which is a Spanish dish. And it was funny. I was talking about it once with one of my classes and mentioned that it was pastellas, and the person said, do you know how much effort those things take? And I said, I can just imagine. Anything that's worth having is going to be difficult.
Exactly.
So we've got Bob on line 1. Thank you for calling, Bob. What's your question?
Hi, Rabbi. You're talking about latkes and that they were
originally cheese.
Initiated in Poland?
No. No.
Oh.
They originated in a different part of Europe, in Italy and in Spain, and then moved to Poland.
They moved to Poland, because we do something in
potato
Polish,
pancake.
In Poland, well, we call them pierogis. What you do is you mash the potatoes, then you fry them after they're mashed, and then you take a rolling pin and roll them and then you add your cheese and or your sauerkraut to them.
Okay.
I don't know how latkes are made, but if that's a similar principle.
We stop at the mash and fry.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't get rolled into a dough.
Okay.
And I think pierogi is a dough with a filling.
Yeah, well, that's what he just
more
said.
so
He
than
said
It is, you're right.
he said cheese or
Yeah.
sauerkraut, both of which are very
Sauerkraut.
good. I love pierogies. Why not? Anything that's fattening. So but I think that's probably how the latkes actually started being potato, was that people couldn't afford that filling, and so
Okay.
they left it at the mashed and fried stage, and discovered it doesn't taste too bad that way. Just put a little applesauce or sour cream with it, and it's quite good. And who knows what they
I
actually
prefer applesauce
put with it.
myself, but then again, that's me.
I understand. Everybody's got their favorite thing.
Yeah.
And
And the applesauce must be cold.
Oh, absolutely.
and so there's a variety of choices there. The sour cream usually is cold also.
Well,
Goes-
maybe, for safety reasons, it probably
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah. And but I in recent years I've come to see even many more things with latkes. I've seen people put lox on top of a latke. Anything goes anymore. We're in a fusion kind of world where we mix all kinds of foods, and so the overarching theme is round and fried in oil. Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, once you do that, I think anything goes. In fact, we used to have a contest in my congregation in Tucson called "What's the most decadent thing you can fry in oil?"
Oreos.
We had Oreos, we had Milky Ways, we had a variety of things that were fried in oil.
Those aren't round.
You can make them round.
But now now it all sounds like fair food.
Well,
Fair food is the best food.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So, and then we also had the healthiest thing fried in oil, and those tended to be veggies.
Are they
Right.
still healthy if you fry them in oil, though?
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
They totally. I said relative. The healthiest, right? And that's a good point, right? Just being something est doesn't mean you really achieve it, right? Being the healthiest does not mean it's healthy. So we can
It
take
just
that.
means it's healthier.
Right. It's the most healthy of the options available, but it doesn't
Right.
mean that it actually achieves it. And that always used to be one of the arguments when people used to have all these slogans about, you should be the best you can be. That doesn't mean you're going to be great. It just, it just means a notch better. And
Right.
yeah, ours is the best company. Really? That doesn't mean you're great. You could be the best of a bunch of thieves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So all of these things kind of play into it. So, what's the theme of Hanukkah? That's one thing that's often not really discussed, because it sort of folds in, and people like to call it the Jewish something else. But it is its own holiday. It's about freedom. It's about independence. And that's part of why it was a big problem when the Romans ran Judea, because declaring freedom from the Greeks is probably not healthy when you have Romans watching you.
'Cause
And-
I heard you a couple of weeks ago say that Hanukkah actually means dedication.
Correct.
And I was thinking, because being raised the way I was, I even asked a friend of mine a trivia question, what does Hanukkah mean? And she said the Festival of Lights, and I said she was right. But
Chag Orim, it's one of the other names for the holiday, but Hanukkah itself. So Bob, for those who are not hearing Bob's question, he's asking about what Hanukkah itself means, and does it mean Festival of Lights? Hanukkah's other name is the Festival of Lights, because you light the Chanukiah to remember it. And so it's called the Festival of Lights for that reason. But that's Chag Orim, and it's one of the other names for Hanukkah. Hanukkah itself
Okay.
means dedication. Didn't mean to interrupt you there, Bob.
no
So,
problem.
and so those were great. So a lesson on how to make pierogies, right? Mash the potatoes, fry them.
Well, of course, we
turn
started
them
with
into,
food.
Yeah, of course. And then turn them into filled pockets All right, we call those kreplach, Jewish wonton.
Yes.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
They're tasty too.
Being raised on Long Island, you had to hear such things.
I used to go to a restaurant. It was called Stein's.
Yeah.
And they had a soup that was called mishmash. And it was the noodles,
Okay.
the krepla,
That was
and
just that, a mishmash.
a matzo ball.
Yeah.
My favorite soup on the entire planet.
Well, yeah.
I mean, oh,
Yeah, because one of those could feed you for a week. Yes, the roll out of the deli. Yeah. Well, that's like I don't like to go to New York without going to either and or Katz's or the Second Avenue Deli, which is now on Fifth.
that's funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Well, they moved it up 3 blocks.
Yeah.
What can I say?
They did move. They moved it up and around the
But
corner.
don't change the name.
But right, they didn't because the name is
Right.
known.
The
and
Carnegie Deli is
recognized.
coming back for 7 days only.
And okay.
Just saying.
Well, supposedly they're actually talking in New York about really building the subway or the elevated out to the Lower East Side. Right? That was the rationale for getting rid of the shady part of the street. And yes, it meant shady in all different kinds of ways, because they were going to extend the subway, and then you didn't need the train with the shade and the deals that were going on underneath the trestles. And so they cleared out that area and totally changed the Lower East Side, the tenement area. And the excuse, 60, 70 years ago was the subway. And when I was last in New York, there was another bill. They were actually going to start construction on it. I think at this point, seeing is believing. I don't know if it's actually happening or not. Any of my New York friends want to tell me, please feel free to let me know if it's really happening or if it's just another chatter session. But yeah, they don't have that promised, it would only be a short time until you'd be able to get into downtown quickly and easily. You cannot go from the Lower East Side to downtown easily. Just does not happen. On the other hand,
Kind of
it's
sounds like down here with the Crosstown Parkway.
not touching that one. Crosstown Parkway.
Well, it'll get finished eventually, right?
Yeah, and then we'll think
Yeah.
it's always been there.
Well,
In the year
new people will think it
25.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tradition. Didn't you fight and try tradition in the Civil War? Never mind. Not you, but yeah, that's one of my favorite things. People do tend to think that things that are now have always been,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
I have a question to
Okay.
follow up on. one
And
of his
thank you again,
questions.
Bob.
I have
No
a question to follow up on one of Bob's questions.
Okay.
And it's a serious question. I've thought about this before.
Okay.
So now I'll ask a rabbi.
Right.
One of the names for Hanukkah is Festival of Lights.
Chag Orim. Yeah.
Okay. How did it then develop that Christmas has all these lights everywhere? Why isn't it Hanukkah? Hanukkah deserves all the lights.
You mean
Why don't Jews light up their houses? Why don't Jews light up everything?
Oh.
Why is it Christmas? What does that have to do with Christmas?
Everybody lights up a winter holiday, a winter solstice holiday. In the old days, you couldn't exactly plug your oil lamp in and put it to ornaments, right? So it was the candelabra, right, which you theoretically put outside. So lighting your house outside is, in fact, appropriate for Hanukkah. I have no problem with people putting out beautiful Hanukkah decorations. I've seen some really gorgeous ones. I don't do it because, it would probably be June before I took them down. But, there's a rush to put them up. There's never a rush to take them down. That's the standard joke in our house. We do minimal Hanukkah decorations. We do put the Hanukkah up and we do a few things, but not, of course, I don't have little kids running around in the house, and that tends to stimulate the decoration. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with decorating
But to
for
me,
Hanukkah.
it seems like, okay, if I were to go out into the front yard and decorate my tree, that would seem really, really
Well,
odd.
I didn't say do your tree. There's other things you do, like an outdoor Hanukkah.
But you could decorate with blue and white, right?
But it
decorate
still
your
seems-
house. Well, of course, here we decorate the palm trees, so it's, and in Tucson we decorated the swallow. And those are actually kind of fun because you need
We have to be very careful.
Well, yes, you always have respect for a swallow, but they are prone to damage on their growth tips if they freeze. And Tucson gets snow, right, as you it's been discussed. And so people will very often put a covering on the top of the saguaro. And I now have I have some small saguaro in my house right now. Thank you, wonderful gifts. And I was watching them. They opened up in October, and they grew like, maybe a half an inch, which is a lot for a saguaro. And with our cold snap that we just had this past week, they have shut down like crazy. They've closed that little growth, and you can't even see the growth spurt inside. And but that's nature's way of covering it. But if it's an unexpected quick freeze, a lot of people in Tucson put hats and covers and things to protect that growth spurt or that growth area on the top of, because it's most vulnerable. And then, of course, they often end up being, Christmas cap kind of things. Or in whatever colors.
Looks more like a hat.
Right, looks more like a hat than
a
a cover. And then, of course, people attach little eyes and all kinds of
They
things.
use a carrot for a nose?
That's a little hard to stick on, but, you could probably put it on the spine. But, yeah, beards are not hard. You can kind of hang those on the spines. A saguaro is very, very tall, 60, 70 feet. It's not uncommon. They are huge. It was sobering when I conquered my acrophobia, which was a very conscious thing that I did a few years back. And to demonstrate it, the promise that I made people was that I would climb on the roof of my house and send pictures to people, which I did. I posted them. And what amazed me was how much taller than the house the saguaro were. It's like, really? You guys really are so bloomin' tall. And they're huge cacti. Excuse me, cactus. The plural of cactus is cactus in Tucson. Here it's cacti, but the rest of the world it's cactus. I just taught an English class to the Chinese. And so I had to go through irregular plurals, and cacti was one of them. And I was thinking, no, cactus is a cactus. There's several cactus in the yard, which is how you would say it in Tucson. So there's interesting little localisms like that. And so, latkes can be like that too. Lighting can be like that. Nothing wrong to me with decorating for Hanukkah. We decorate the temple for Hanukkah. And yeah, blue and white is very often the color. There was a person in Philadelphia, I remember their house really well. They did a whole scene of the Maccabees in their front yard. They had great big cutouts. And that was at a time when people didn't have all these blow-up figures. We're talking, back when the dinosaur roamed when I was in high school.
Yeah, I think those will be a phase too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they looked, when you have them all in your front yard and they're not plugged in and they're just kind of laying there, it's not very festive.
So far, I haven't seen a blow-up rabbi, though.
And hopefully you won't see one in my general form or shape, but not a good plan. Of course, most people have this assumption that a rabbi is wearing a black hat and a beard. But that's not true. Right now, more women are in seminary than men. And that's the only one that's not true of is the Orthodox, but even they have women rabbis now. Right? And they're dealing with, what do we call these rabbis? Right?
I would think they'd be calling what they call the spouse.
No, they don't call him a Rebbitzin because that means the spouse of a Rebbitz. It's a Rebbe's spouse. And so I said, the other term for a husband of a rabbi is a Rebbitz.
Oh, okay.
That's actually the Yiddish word for it. And but as I said, Maharat, there's a couple of different names that they're using. Rabbah. And it's interesting. Rabbi is used in other places. And you're getting a call on your phone.
Of course, it's my son.
Ah, okay. Well, that's allowed. Sons are allowed to
How about the
call.
rabbi's husband?
Well,
Does that work?
Well, we've got, and people joke about it and say husbandson, and my husband will tell you that his title is Bill.
Okay. Yeah.
He's very clear about that, and he's never been shy about it. And and obviously that's something different. Different spouses have to decide what they're comfortable with, and But it used to be that in Europe, you were Frau Doctor, you were the wife of the doctor, and if you yourself were a doctor, it was different. It was a different title, and language is interesting that way, right? We try to connect with things, and the Hebrew title is Harav, but although it does say on my smicha rabbi, which means our teacher. And in order to be ordained, you have to teach teachers. That's an old discussion in Talmud, is who is a rabbi? And it's not just one who has students, but it's one whose students have students. Right? So you have to be able to teach teachers. And that's actually always been the thing that I so much enjoy, is teaching others who will then turn around and teach. I've always, that's where I really get my greatest joys, is working with somebody who's going to then work with people. And I guess that's my way of pushing out what I'm offering, and hopefully it's worth it to somebody. That's, I think, something that all of us want. All right, so what are these funky things, and what I'm doing for those who can't see it?
And I noticed right away for our radio people.
Right away I have earrings that are dreidels, or spinning tops, which are also a part of Hanukkah. And it's also on my necklace, which is in many, many different colors. And the dreidel is a way of remembering the holiday. It has on it 4 Hebrew letters, Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin if you're outside of Israel, and a Pei if you're inside Israel. And that's Nes Gadol Haya Shamer Po, depending on where you're at. A great miracle happened there, if we're in America, or happened here. Right, so if I pick up a dreidel in Israel, it's going to have different letters on it, because that's where the miracle happened. And the miracle is surviving. The miracle is not having been absorbed into the Greek culture, because so many peoples lost their identity and were absorbed into the greater Greek Empire, and then later into the Roman Empire. And there was this attempt to homogenize everything and make it all the same, because it's easy to rule something when it's all the same. You can just hit anything that sticks out. And it also serves to eliminate a drive for independence, right? Which makes, it's a dehumanizing kind of thing. And it's interesting, right, that we have peer pressure that kind of tends to want to make us do that. We don't treasure the uniqueness of people. We don't treasure the diversity. And I think that's a bigger issue, perhaps. Because we are taught that we are all unique. Yes, we're all God's children. We all are part of that bigger whole, but we're different parts of it. No two of us are alike. We're like snowflakes, in that no two snowflakes are alike. Right? At least I haven't seen any that are alike. And they're very, very complex structures. We don't think of a snowflake as being very complex.
And very few of us actually take the time to look.
Yeah. But, there's actually beautiful photography done of snowflakes and things like that. Unfortunately, I don't see any of those anymore. I love not having to shovel sunshine. So for all of those of you who have white fluffy stuff, enjoy it. Take a picture of it. Don't send it to me.
You can send it to me.
You can send it to Stuart. Just keep it on his end of the town and not mine. So in Tucson one time, when they wanted to do a winter thing, because they've got it a little easier, they do have snow, and they also have Mount Lemmon, which is 8,000 feet in the air. And so in the winter time, they'll drive up to Mount Lemmon, grab a truckload or 3 or 4 of snow, and bring it down, and one of the big shopping malls puts it out in the parking lot for the kids to play in.
I know they've done that here, but that's just shaved ice.
Yeah, I understand. They actually
quite the same.
They actually truck real snow.
Yeah,
and
not quite the same.
Yeah, it's shaved ice still. It's
it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold and it's
cold.
It's a little not quite as white.
Little cherry flavoring,
Yeah, that's a totally different kind of shaved ice.
Yeah.
I don't think you want it off the parking lot after the kids have played in it.
Yeah.
It's not like a fresh snow, you mean?
No, it's not fresh snow anymore, and it's not really white. It's kind of this,
and it gets really wet really fast, and it's gone quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas, the real snow was melting too. It was funny to have to drive around it. It was like that was one of the things that I liked about the South, is not having to drive around piles of snow. But yeah, I understand. Kids like to play in it, and it's fun. And as long as you've got good gloves and aren't getting frostbite. I actually had frostbite as a child because the mittens and the gloves don't work. So, take them off and use your hands. There's a reason why Mom put the gloves on. Yeah, sometimes we have to learn these lessons the hard way. There's definitely that part of me. So I like not having those parts, but I like Hanukkah, and I don't see any reason not to decorate. The tree, that's a different issue. Right? And the tree is really not Christmas. The tree is really Yule. Right? That's a Northern European, a Wiccan, a pagan as in a nature worshiper kind of celebration. And, it's not wrong for them. It's nothing wrong with that. But it's not Hanukkah. Hanukkah's not a tree. Hanukkah's a Hanukkah, a lantern. And so, if you take that and you go, I think from there to lights, you're in good shape. And decorations in the house, certainly proclaiming the miracle is part of Hanukkah. And so you could make an argument that a lot of decorations, and quite candidly, Stuart, it's easier to put something up in your yard than up in your tree. And you don't exactly have a fir tree. No. So, palm trees look different with lights on them. And again, if you're doing a Hanukkah theme, I think it works. You can do whatever you want. One of the funnier things that Bill did was he did a Photoshop on a swallow and turned it into a Hanukkah. And that's pretty. That's nice. So that's a decoration on a table. I'm being shown. Here, I'll show it to this should be interesting. For the folks that are live streaming with me, there's the picture of it. And for those on Radioland, it's got a giant dreidel. Yeah, it's got a giant dreidel in the middle of it, and it's got some blue glasses around it, and a couple of other dreidels and Hanukkah. It looks like music boxes mostly, and quite pretty. It's a nice decoration. And I know that you're a little bit like I am. I collect Hanukkah. I've got an uncountable number of them. Uncountable, right. We purposely keep that number a little bit vague. That way, I can slide a new one in.
One day she might call Cliff a straw shop.
So, and Hanukkah are interesting. They've changed over the time. When I was little, they could look like anything. And now the more Orthodox want them to be in a line, a certain height, or this or that. They've gotten more rigorous in what they consider acceptable, which is... I always find it interesting when things get more rigorous over time instead of looser and more taking advantage of things. But there's a value in whichever way you go on things and make it meaningful for you. I think that's the big thing of Hanukkah. So it's a celebration of freedom, a reminder that there are hard times for people individually and as a people. And so may this Hanukkah be a season of light and joy. And so, here we go. We're going to be going into Hanukkah, and I will be talking to you another time. This is Rabbi Shafir Lobb for Ask a Rabbi.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.